Welcome to PHP Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando. And this is episode 296.
296, which means we are almost to 300, but we're not quite there yet. And today is one of our themed episodes, and we are talking about
bad things.
Bad things.
No, I thank you guys. I know we're a day late, and it's because life just caught up to us. It's been kind of busy. Mike's been busy wrapping up the school year. I've just been busy trying to survive on eBay right now. And so we'll talk about some of that. And actually, you should catch our Monday minisode where we talk about what are the things the reselling community is not talking about. Because I think there's a lot of things that people aren't discussing that needs to be discussed. So tune in on Monday for that. But hey, let's start on a good note. We're almost at 300 episodes, and reselling is still a viable option to make money. That's a good thing.
That's right.
And even during tough times. So this episode is going to be, I think we're just expecting it's going to happen. Maybe it won't. I don't know, but prepping for the upcoming recession / stagflation.
Ooh, yeah. And it's one of those things, like, I feel like as a podcast, we've talked, over the last year, especially as we were kind of moving in towards some economic troubles, we were talking about inflation and how that would impact reselling. And I feel like a lot of people were kind of upset with us, saying we were like sounding alarm bells before, and it was necessary. And turns out, like, the inflation we've been talking about, like, legitimately was a thing. We were right. Going on like what, year and a half now. We've been talking about 2 years. So
I wish I was wrong.
Yeah, no, for sure. I wish I was wrong. But the signs were there. And so, we were looking at what does that mean for us as resellers? And specifically, we've talked about things like, okay, we've got to adapt our prices. We got to find ways to still be competitive while making more, because our dollar buys less. So we've got to figure out ways to make that work. And so we're kind of taking that a step further. So if we're right on that, now we're moving towards things are rough. So whether or not we want to say we're definitely going into recession or stagflation, we can definitely say things are challenging right now. We're in a challenging time where we're coming out of a lot of, easy money, as it were, where there was lots of stimulus, there was tax returns, there were lots of people had money kind of just extra. A lot of people were hurting, so it wasn't extra money, but enough people had extra money that spending was way up. We saw that in 2020. We saw that going into 2021. But now we're at a place where that's kind of dried up, and we're seeing the fruits of that. We're seeing this downturn economy. And what does that mean for us as resellers? What do we have to do to, one, survive this, two, hopefully not just thrive, but actually come out of this better than we were going into it, and set ourselves up? Because people have accused us of being like doomsdayers, but the reality is we understand economics, and it always goes in cycles. Like the economy does really well. We have times of expansion, and then you have times of retraction or contraction, and it's a natural part of any economic system. And so there's going to be ups, there's going to be seasons of ups, seasons of downs. And so it would be foolish of us not to at least address, like, hey, we've been in an up, we're moving towards a down. What does that mean? How do we deal with that? So do you want to define our terms for today, though, the recession, stagflation? I
do. But before we do that, and this is not going to be a sponsored ad, I do want to address the fact that, when it comes to this whole, our episodes and reselling, like, this is going to be a little different one. This is going to be one that's not based on like, oh, I heard, from this reseller and they told me how it was. Because you should check out our interviews with Craigslist Hunter, Amazing Taste Store, they started their reselling journey when recession hit, and they thrived, right? And so, check out those interviews. I think those will be very encouraging and motivating. But at the same time, I wanted to look at just, what was being said. What was being said in 08, 09, 2012. I mean, it took me a lot of hours. I read a lot of articles, and I had to sift through a lot. And so I wanted to get to, exactly what can we expect, right? And I'm not a big guy on, I am a big guy, but I'm not a big guy when it comes to, history repeats itself, right? What happened in 08 is going to happen now in 2022, or what happened in 1929 will happen now, or whatever it is. But I do believe that there's a lot of similar patterns to things. And so, we have recession, we have stagflation. I don't want to get deep into Econ 101, but recession is basically we have two periods, 2 quarters. Okay. And, there's 3-month intervals, and where there's a decline in the growth of gross domestic product, which is GDP, which is basically the country's wealth, right? So we were down first quarter 1.5%. And now the expectation is that we'll have a gain of 0.9%, I think, that's not great. That there's not a lot of room there. And so if it happens that we are in decline, then we already are in a recession, right? Or we're right at the cusp of it. The other end is stagflation, recession. What recession just means is that there's a decline in spending. There's a decline in economic growth. That means that, and we'll talk about what we know about recession based on the data from
typically
before.
Lower employment,
less money going around, and so on. Then you have stagflation, which stagflation is a worse scenario. So recession, you can get through a recession in a year, half a year, maybe 18 months. But stagflation is worst case. Worst case scenario is Mad Max.
Yeah.
But stagflation
is really bad. Yeah. Stagflation is essentially when you have a recession or a downturn economy, and you're also, so you've got unemployment, you've got all of the issues that come with a recession, but you also have high inflation rates,
so everything is expensive.
Yeah, so typically inflation, is addressed by adjusting interest rates. And the thing that would normally fix a recession, you can't do because you're also trying to combat inflation. So you've got almost the worst of both worlds going on together. And regardless, because again, people would say, like when we were talking about inflation, people would say, well, we're not seeing hyperinflation. It's like, okay, well, true. Hyperinflation has a definition, which is like pretty extreme. So, but nobody can deny that we're definitely seeing inflation. Your money goes far, doesn't go as far as it used to. And so whether or not we would say like, okay, this is a legitimate recession, I think we can all agree whether or not it meets that definition point. We're definitely in a downturn economy. We're in an economy where things are rough for people. And so forgive us if the definitions don't line up to what exactly happens. And it's not like, oh, you guys were wrong. But really, we're trying to get the spirit of we're moving into difficult times.
Yeah, so. I agree. And so that puts it at a crossroads with reselling, right? Because, right now we're dropping this episode in June, right? And generally people are talking about summer slowdown. And I think this summer slowdown may be different, or it may be the same. I might come through this in August and go, you know what, sales are great, right? But I think all of us can right now, and not all of us, many of us can say sales have been interesting, right? Whether they've been a roller coaster ride, whether they've been a huge downturn, right? We can say, hey, maybe the eBay algorithm has changed things up, or maybe it's just people are spending less, right? And they're looking at different things, and maybe we all have to adopt, right? So I think when we talk about this, when it comes to reselling, we have to think this in longer terms, right? We can't just think about this in the summer. We can't just think about this coming Q4, because if we jump into recession, or even worse, stagflation, which can go on for a way longer time. We're talking about 1970s. Stagflation was a decade. Okay. It was from almost a decade, 73 to about 1980. And then when Ronald Reagan came in, there were things that were done to combat that. And during that time, inflation had gone from 73 to 80 from, I believe it was like 3% to like 14%. And right now we're about there, right? And
yeah, if you're using the same metrics actually as we,
it's worse
70s,
now.
Yeah, it's actually, so it's hard because the metrics, the way they measured inflation has changed. So that makes it pretty tough.
Hopefully we haven't lost a lot of you right now, but we need to lay this foundation.
Yeah. So this is the foundation. Now we'll jump into, okay, what does this mean as resellers? So we're going to talk today about what we don't know, what we do know, and what we can potentially expect.
So for example, right, we already talked about, what we do know about recession, right? People are going to spend less money, but that doesn't mean you're going to have less sales as a reseller, right? Generally, people go after the secondhand market, right? And so there's opportunities on both sides, right, of this. We're going to talk about this later on, how thrift stores actually boomed during this time. But what does that mean? That means that not everybody right now, right, with gas prices, I'm not expecting everyone's going to want to drive around to thrift stores. They may just go on eBay, right? But what does that mean for your prices? Are you going to have to lower, or are you going to have to raise them, right? How bad can it get? Well, it all depends how you're set. It all depends on your business model and how you have everything put together. If you're just trying to sell continued collectibles, it may be tough, but that doesn't mean that there aren't wealthy individuals out there still buying those kind of items. It just generally, that means it's going to be less. And then, you got to think about how long can you sustain this? How you're gonna have to run lean. I do think as resellers, we talked about this.
Are you trying to like cover everything real quick before we even start? Because I feel like you've like run the gambit here instead of us talking, going on.
But here's the thing: what we don't know is how things are. We just don't know. Right? This is uncharted waters, like I said before. And so here's what we do know. First, let's talk about gas. Right? So does that affect your sourcing? Has that been a part in your garage sales, thrifting, or where I'm gonna go?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, gas continues, the prices go up, and that's part of, there's more at play than just inflation. I mean, inflation is a part of it, a significant part of it, but then there's also other things. There's geopolitical stuff going on, which impacts that. But I was looking at one of the gas stations I normally get gas at, and it's approaching $7 here in San Diego's. $7.
I love it when the nationwide average is $5.
Yeah, they're worried about getting we were
$5 like 2 months ago.
That was a long time ago for us. But that really does make an impact on how much I want to drive. And so part of it is becoming more strategic. Okay, got to make sure that I'm not making additional trips, that if I'm already out, hey, I've got to run to the grocery store, I've got to go to this. Hey, maybe that's when I'm going to stop at a thrift store. I'm just going to plan that or I'm on my way home. So I'm going to plan a stop then as opposed to going out again. And that's typical. I mean, the hard part is a lot of times this has already been figured in. Like I'm already trying to save as much on gas. So it's not like I just drive around like crazy on a normal year. So there really isn't much wiggle room here. It's like I'm already trying to make sure that I'm making the best use of my time, which means I'm not making extra trips. But gas continues, the continued increase in gas. So it's tough because sometimes there's no more strategic things you can do to make it better other than buy a new car, which again might not work either, because by the time you've paid the difference and made up the difference there. So it's definitely tough because things are definitely going up. Gas is one of them, and everything else is going up too. I mean, the hard part is bills across the board and prices across the board. And people don't realize a lot of times what gas and diesel, I have a diesel generator that I use. When diesel prices go up, the prices of things in stores go up as well. So the prices of stuff in Target and Walmart and your grocery store, because it takes trucks powered by diesel gasoline or diesel fuel to get the items there. As those prices go up, then so do the prices of everything else. And it's really tough because you look at things like, okay, I got a message. I don't know what service provider you have. I have AT&T. And I got a message that says, just wanted to let you know that your bill, the plan you're on, will be going up by $12 a month. What? If you're okay with this, you don't have to do anything. So the plan that we have is increasing in price. And we've seen this with all kinds of stuff. I mean, if you are on Netflix, if you're on Amazon Prime, like it's if you pretty much no matter what subscription plan you're on, you're going to see an increase in price. Prices have gone up. Your rent has probably gone up. And the thing is, even if people want to say like, okay, well, inflation's going to get better, maybe it's transitory, it's going to go away after a certain period of time, these prices don't go down. I'm not expecting that in 2 years, if we get things under control, that AT&T is going to be like, hey, you know what? Now that the economy is better and we've got this inflation under control and the supply chain is figured out, we're going to go ahead and drop your bill by $12. Like once those prices go up, they go up forever.
So that's going to happen to everyone, right? So that means there's
eBay fees.
So there's going to be less money in the economy. So there's things you need to factor in, right? I've already seen on TikTok, I've seen people talking about because of the high gas prices, they're only sourcing twice a week, right? So I would say now is the time to lock in how you're going to source for maybe the next year, right? Are you going to go pallets? Are you going to, do you have some thrift stores that are ones that you're kind of like, I don't need to go to these anymore? Or are you going to just do garage? So I think you need to factor that in because that's going to have to be something that you budget, right? Your expenses for everything, right? Even the supply, your shipping supplies is gonna go up in price. So, these are all things you should do anyways, right? It's not like we're saying anything extra as far as like, hey, you should buy the most expensive shipping supplies, but now is probably the time to figure out how are you gonna access those, or maybe how can you bulk buy them, right? So prices may in 6 months, maybe even more expensive on shipping supplies. So maybe now is the time to maybe make a huge order from a company, because the bigger the order, the cheaper it is. Right. So a very simple example, I just ordered thermal labels. Now you could get them for free via UPS if you do a lot of UPS shipping, and that you can Google that on YouTube. But, I bought 1,000 labels because they're 2 cents a piece. Right. Where if I bought 500, it would have been 4 cents a piece. Right. Tiny savings, but all those savings over time add up. But for example, I do expect eBay fees to keep going up. I don't think they're going to, once there's at a certain set, it's not like eBay is going to do a spring seller update and say, we decided to lower our fees. Like, I don't see that happening. And then at the same time, right, shipping is going to go up. But it's obnoxious right now. Even with the post office, if I send the first class at the very 1 pound weight, it's $6.28 with all my eBay discounts. But if I send a flat rate envelope, it's $7 and something.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's no difference at times.
Yeah. And what makes this tough is, as a reseller, you've got to either, one, increase your prices in order to cover the cost of these things, or two, eat the cost. Like, those are really the only two options, is you increase the prices of your items or your shipping and handling in order to make the same amount, as comparatively as you were year, 2 years ago, or you eat the cost and you work harder to make the same amount. And so neither one of those is a really good option, because when you raise your prices, which we've talked about for, going on a year now, that this is something we're going to slowly have to do. And there's going to be an awkward transition period where you raise your prices and you're going to be higher than your competitors. And so they're going to be selling things, but eventually they're selling at almost a loss. Eventually they're going to have to either increase their prices or get out of the game. So it's tough. I mean, everybody at some point has to increase their prices, just like we're seeing companies like AT&T and Netflix saying, we've got to increase our prices. There really is no other option when you're dealing with this kind of stuff. And Orlando made the comment that there's less money in the economy. And it's kind of a tricky thing when you deal with potentially stagflation, because you almost have two things happening at once. You almost have more money in the economy, which is why inflation is going up so high, but it's less discretionary money. People have less. And I think that's the key there, is there's actually almost too much money potentially in the economy as a whole, which is one of the reasons why prices have gone up so high. But they've got to soak some of that money back in. And so prices have increased, and people, even though technically like a lot of jobs are giving increases, like California gave a big increase.
But the higher the wages, the higher the inflation.
Exactly. So as more money gets into the economy, which at first glance sounds great, it actually is almost a net loss for a lot of people, because, hey, I got a $2 raise at work, but everything has gone up significantly. And it's almost like I'm making less than I was making before. And so there's potentially more money in the economy, but as weird as it sounds, there's less discretionary money. So how does that affect us as resellers? Well,
so discretionary meaning money that people have to spend.
People have to spend on things besides the necessities. So they might be making more money, but if everything is increased, they might actually have less percentage of money to buy the things they want to buy on eBay or Amazon. And so, I mean, they're basically begging people, like, people need to spend more in order for us to get out of this potential recession. And it's like, well, people can't spend more when most of their money is now going to things like gas and food, which has gone up significantly in price. So what does that mean as a reseller? So as a reseller, this might be the time that you have to adjust your what niche you're in. So if you're in a niche where it's hobbies, it's collectibles, there are still going to be people who they've got too much money, they don't know what to do with it, and even in a recession is not going to affect them. So you potentially can do fine depending on what niche you're in, but as a whole, as discretionary income drops for many people, you might have to move towards things that people need, whether it's
utility,
mall brand clothes, shoes, those types of things, workwear, house, like replacement parts. This might be like somewhere where you're like, I normally don't part things out, but I'm going to start selling parts because, if somebody's washing machine breaks, if washing machines cost almost 2 times what they did 3 or 4 years ago, I'm just going to find a new motor and I'm going to fix it myself.
So during the recession of 2008, people held on to their cars 2 to 3 years longer than normal, right? They held on to appliances longer than normal, right? And so you're right about parts and the fact that, instead of people going out to buy brand new, they're looking for a cheaper alternative to make what they have last longer, right? And so again, you also have to think about your sourcing. Like if you've been selling a lot of items that are, like let's say $15 a piece, right? And you've done free shipping, right? And you've had low margins of, I don't know, you're making $1 to $2, $3, $4 net profit on each one. It may be time to shift because that might be all gone. I know right now. So for example, right now, Whatnot, okay, the Whatnot auction site is great for a lot of resellers, right? Because even though they're selling things for so cheap, it's still profitable, right? But that just changed because Whatnot changed their shipping prices, right? And so as shipping goes up, right, that margin is going to get even less and less and less. And so maybe you're going to have to move away from that $1 to $2 margin. Or if it's something that's in high in demand, it's not going to matter, right? You're going to have to fluctuate. This also goes along with pricing, right? It's interesting. I was looking at this article back from 2009, and from Money Watch, and they had talked about in 1973 during the recession, as competitors panicked, IBM made an unusual move. It raised prices. So IBM took this step after embracing the marketplace marketing catchphrase, nobody ever got fired for buying IBM. Most people think in tough times you have to give a special offer or cut prices. Steven says, but that ends up devaluing the product and the salesperson's reputation. When prices fall dramatically, Steven says, customers start to believe they are overpaying at the regular price or at the product is so cheap because there's something wrong with it. Instead of slashing prices, consider offering additional services such as longer guarantees or additional tech support to make buyers feel they're getting more value for their money. So on the reselling end, what does that mean? Well, I would say lowering prices may be effective, but it could also hurt you if it's too low, right? Because then we've had this discussion before where people are like, why is that price so cheap? Right? Is there something wrong with it? Is there something off? Now,
and you just might not be making enough money to make your time worthwhile.
Correct. But if your price is a little bit higher, but you are able to offer free returns, you have expedited delivery, you have all these other perks, then people are saying, you know what? I'm not only am I getting that product, but I'm getting that product faster. I'm getting better customer service. And so these are things you're going to have to think about in a recession, because you think money matters now. Imagine when people only have so much money to spend, right? They're not going to go after the cheapest, maybe, because they're going to think, hey, the cheapest is going to cost me in the long run, right? Whether it be clothing, whether it be shoes, whether it be repair parts, whether it be whatever it is, right? There may be this, psychological game of, hey, I want to make sure that what I'm buying is worth every single dollar I'm spending because I don't have a lot of money to spend. So maybe going to the cheapest route may not be the best in the recession, but also going the highest route may not be the best call in the recession.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tricky. It's going to depend what niche you're in. You're going to have to play around and see. You've got to make sure your prices are competitive no matter what you do. You can't be overly expensive. But I think the bigger concern, because I doubt, especially for like the typical yard sale type eBay store, that people are too concerned if the prices are cheaper than everybody else, unless it's like significant. If you're trying to buy something new, like if I'm on Amazon, I'm wanting to buy a pizza cutter, and the typical pizza cutter is like $15-20. They got good reviews, but then there's one for $3. I'm probably not buying the $3 one because it's like, this one's probably garbage. But when it comes to, hey, I'm looking for a pair of boots and I know exactly the brand and style and fit that I'm looking for, if I see one half the price on eBay of everybody else, I'd still jump on that. So I don't know if it applies as much to the secondary market if people are looking for specific things, but it's going to depend, like I said, what niche you're in. If you sell, new, if you got private label, then yeah, dropping the prices might actually hurt you in the long run for sure. And it definitely is going to hurt you if you're dropping your prices to get those quick sales. If you're actually working for $5-10 an hour by the time it's all said and done, at that point, man, go flip burgers, because to do that is would be miserable if you're just constantly packing and shipping and sourcing for significantly lower ROI because you're just trying to get the quick buck.
Correct. Now, the other thing is that we do know is that secondary market does continue to thrive. So I'll give you just a quick case study. So Time back in 2011, they had done a report about how pawn shops actually grew as far as in their businesses. And so they said it's been a huge year for retail so far in the holiday shopping season, with $52 billion spent over Black Friday weekend, another $6 billion spent online during the Cyber Week that followed. Here's one more hot consumer trend, which is unsurprising given the still shaky state of the economy. More and more shoppers seem to be buying holiday gifts at the pawn store. There are 13,000 pawn shops around the country, and many are reporting strong sales for 2011, and especially strong sales the year comes to a close. Knowing that the world of pawn is a $6.1 billion industry in the U.S., they did a study, and a chain that runs 22 stores in 4 states. The holiday period always tends to be good for business at pawn stores. And the holiday season of 2010 was Pawn America's best ever. Until this year, Pawn America's sales numbers on Black Friday of 2011 were 35% higher than last year. So there's a lot of reports like this, but I thought this was interesting for 2 reasons. One is I'm not 100% about the strength of Amazon as far as when it comes to holiday gifts and so on, like it's been in previous years, right? I would say 2020 and 2021 was the golden age of reselling expensive toys, video games, and all those things. Brand new, right? And then at the same time, I do see that, if pawn shops are growing, then this also means that places like eBay and Etsy and others that sell secondary goods, people are going to go to those places to buy their goods at this time. And so I was looking for eBay numbers to see how the eBay, there's nothing out there. But my guess is, if you can buy something, right, that's pretty close to something retail and you can get it at 50, 60% of that price, you're going to go for it, right? Especially when, again, every single dollar you spend and every reseller that we talked to that have been through this said, yes, secondary market grows. And so I anticipate even this Q4, I don't know how much Amazon I'm going to be doing. I think I may be growing my eBay store even more. And maybe Amazon will be good. Maybe I'll be missing out. But my sense is that as money gets tighter, trying to sell something that I could buy for $80 and flip it in for $300 to $400, I don't know if I'll be able to do that consistently. Right, this last Q4, there are a few things that were down that road on Amazon, but not many. It was even tougher. And again, as people are losing jobs and people are trying to find other ways to make money, the competition is going to continue to grow. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, I mean, I think that's probably right. I still think that it's tough, especially if you're talking about things like Q4 with Christmas time. I think if we're dealing with stagflation, or a really, really bad economic system, then I just think spending as a whole is going to be down for things like gifts for Christmas and that type of stuff. And so if spending is down across the board, that's going to impact all Amazon resellers. It's going to impact probably a lot of eBay sellers. So I don't know if it would be like, hey, people are just going to shift from going to Walmart and Target and they're going to be buying people used gifts on eBay. I don't think that's going to shift so much. I think we're all going to feel the impact of that. But I do think as a whole, as the economy is bad, if you're selling things like jeans, work boots, home decor stuff, things that people want but want at a cheaper price, I definitely think the secondary market is going to do really well there. That can make it harder for potential competition at thrift stores and stuff. If people are like, hey, I need to decorate my house or I need to get shoes, I should go check the thrift store. So there are downsides to that. But again, how many times have you been to a thrift store and you don't find what you're looking for and people are going to turn to online? And if you've already found what it is they're looking for, then you make the profit.
Well, that's what I mean. I think right now we're in a weird lull with summer slowdown with maybe the eBay algorithm and so they're slow. But I do think they're going to pick up, and I do think they'll pick up on eBay. It just, again, is making sure we have the right stuff. All right.
And even if they don't pick up, if you think comparatively, if spending is down across the board, let's say, I don't know, I'm just throwing random numbers out there, so don't put any weight in these numbers. But if spending across the board goes down 10% or 15%, but spending only goes down 2 or 3% on the secondary market, that's still proportionately a win.
Yeah.
So even if sales don't pick up, if they don't drop to the levels that it's dropping across the board, then that still shows the strength of the secondary market in a downturn economy. Yeah. Even if you're not like, hey, you're going to double your sales or sales are going to go up by 20, 30%. But if they don't drop the same extent that it's dropping at Target and Walmart, then you're still winning.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm a little more optimistic. I think right now it's pretty easy to get pessimistic about things. And, we'll talk about that later on. But I think I don't know. My view from everything that I was reading was secondary market does really, really well during this time. So we'll just have to wait and see. Again, I don't think things repeat themselves, but it's possible that might happen again. All right. Hey, before we move on to a more exciting part of Hustle of the Week here soon, I want to talk about our Discord. It's been such a great community. I've learned so much. And, what I love is the bigger we grow, the more we learn. And so, again, I brought up, somebody brings up a question and look at it. I'm like, I don't know if anybody here is going to be able to answer this. And sure enough, somebody shows up and answers, or somebody provides a bolo that nobody thought about, or somebody chimes in on shipping. It's been
tips and tricks, and yeah, it's been really great. And it's just been cool too to just be able to kind of, what's the term? Shoot the breeze with some people and just kind of talk about things that are
the randomness.
Yeah, just what it's like being a reseller. And hey, saw this at a garage sale. Isn't this funny? Or somebody, can you believe this customer posted this? Because sometimes you don't have anybody you could talk to about that. Like when I'm at work, I can't say, hey, I had this customer and they asked this question about this item. The person at my work would be like, what are you talking about? Like, okay. But like when you share it with another reseller that gets it, it's kind of nice to not feel alone. And so we definitely love all of our Patreon subscribers who are supporting Pure Hustle Podcast. You're the reason we're able to keep going on and making these episodes. So if you are a Patreon subscriber, $5.55 a month, you get access to our Discord. And our Discord is it's a place where we have community. You have people hanging out, and you don't have to participate. It's not like you're required to post so many times in a month in order to be a part of it. So you can just watch and learn if you want to, or you can jump in, ask questions, be part of the community, and it's been great.
And along with that too, AmericanBubbleBoy.com. If you're looking for bubble wrap, the other day it came in just clutch, just in time. I had I'll talk about my hustle of the week, but I needed a good amount of bubble wrap for it. And so if you haven't yet, go to AmericanBubbleBoy.com. Go through our link below. That helps us out, helps you out. In the discount, we're still working on that, but it is still the best price out there for bubble wrap and the fastest shipping today, next day, and even local pickup. So check them out. And last of all, if you haven't followed us on social media, we are Pure Hustle Pasta. Pure Hustle Pasta. We are Pure Hustle Podcast.
Hey, maybe we should make that a shirt. Pure Hustle Pasta.
There you go. I got some crazy ideas for.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll trust anything.
No, it'll be fun, especially when things lose their trademark. We could do something. So
oh gosh,
it's gonna be awesome. So anyways, follow us on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, Pure Hustle Podcast. I am posting on TikTok. Thank you to all of you that have followed us, or maybe you've come across the podcast because of TikTok. Appreciate you. I gotta tell you, the TikTok reselling community is thriving. I still think it is the most toxic of all the social media because I don't know. I just feel like people are mean in there, but it's fun. I like the engagement. So check it out. We are Pure Hustle Cast on Twitter. You can also give us a call, 619-738-1170. That's 619-738-1170. Or shoot us an email. We have one today that we're reading as a hustle of the week at purehustlepodcast@gmail.com. That's purehustlepodcast@gmail.com. As always, if you're listening to us, but you want to catch us on YouTube, or you've never been on our YouTube, jump on over, hit that subscribe. Smash that like button. Everyone that's watching us right now, or even if you're listening, just go to YouTube and smash that like button, hit that bell notification. And last of all, thank you to all of you with the iTunes reviews. Always helps us in the algorithm. If you go in there, 5-star review, and do a nice little write-up about why you enjoy the podcast, that helps us out a lot, because there's a lot of reselling podcasts out there. And even though we are the most listened to podcast out there, it's great to have other people know why. So please help us out in that fashion, and it's greatly appreciated. All right, are we ready? Talk about some good scores here.
Come on, hustlers. It's the freaking hustle of the week. Yeah, hustle of the week time. So our first one comes from Sean, IG handle at Hanson Hustles. So went to a yard sale back in September and came across several vintage toys. Many were new in package. They were Masters of the Universe and Thundercats. He asked the lady running the yard sale for how much she wanted, and she said $10. He couldn't pay her fast enough. This is where you would haggle. I think it's good to just pay.
No.
It's good to just pay.
There's times I haven't haggled when it's that good. Sometimes I won't.
So he couldn't pay fast enough. The owner stated she had more, so there may be a callback. So listed on eBay a new and packaged Thundercats Mum-Ra and Ravage action figure. And after declining several $200 to $300 offers, made a total net profit of $597. Man, from a $10 buy. Whew, that is a killer profit. Good job, Sean. It's always great when you can find those vintage toys and especially if they're new in box. Oh,
it's just something iconic about.
It's
funny. I shared that hustle of the week with my son. He's like, Thundercats. And I'm like, you have no idea, man. Thundercats. So anyways, nice work there, Sean from Hanson Hustles on IG. All right, here's an email from Ryan in Michigan. And actually, I think he was like our third hustle of the week. I mean, from the early days, like
OG.
Episode 3, episode 4, he had like these speakers. I don't know if you remember, but I remember when he sent this email, I'm like, oh yeah, I did remember that because I was like blown away. You know, here's what's funny is before we did the podcast, we knew people had scores here and there. And now the fact that everybody sends us hustle of the week, like we're like, wow.
Yeah.
Like
keeps you going.
It does keep you going. So all right. So Ryan had said, that probably the largest haul of all time, entitled this Hustle of the Century. And I think it's a great haul. And here's the thing. This was a major haul. So let me share the story. There's pictures in between here. So I'm trying to sort through all of it. So anyways, got a message from a random person that they had messaged over, I believe it was over Facebook Marketplace, or I think it was OfferUp, if they had any other, if they had any video game stuff. And said they posted a picture of they had a picture of a PS1 and said yes, to give them a few days and that, they'll look around and they'll get together and they'll reply with some, more photos. So 2 days later, contacted and sent a few more pictures and it was just insanity. Came back with the photos and in these photos, man, there's like sealed PS1 games, PS2 games, Game Genie, like you name it, like all kinds of video game stuff.
Manuals, books.
Yeah, it's insanity. So came in and said wanted $600 for all of it. There wasn't a lot that that was worth anything. So I asked if she could make up a list. Oh wait, let me read that right. There wasn't a lot that I seen that was worth anything. So I asked if we can make up a list. So maybe these pictures, I don't know. I'm looking at these pictures and I see value, but anyways, she told me it would take a few days. She then proceeded sending more photos. Okay. So the next photos are with all the sealed stuff. So she said she wanted a little more for the sealed games and the PS1 games. Was in bed when he got the message, shot up and ran to the computer to look up the stuff. There was a sealed copy of Diablo 1, which goes for a lot of money. And there's a bunch of stuff. And usually with video games is quick ROI. Like if you had the right video games. And so told her it's headed in that direction same day, right away, and could swing by and pick it all up. And you got to do that. When there's these kind of deals, you can't go, hey, can we meet at 3? It's like, no, I'll be there. I could be there in 15 minutes. Like you do not want to waste that time. And eventually said, you know what? I know you got more, but I don't need a list anymore. Let me just come on over. So went on over and went over and picked up a bunch of stuff. So once I got there, I had to stop and take a breath and stop shaking. There was way more that there was when I was expecting and ended up finding even more. Looked at a copy of Diablo and saw that there was, a little bit of damage to the case, but there was still money. Settled on $1,400 for all of it. And I had to go back and get more money. I only brought $1,000, so I ended up having to go get cash. That's the worst. You know what's nice though is now there's Venmo, so I always think about that. So, anyways, it started driving home, and was just started screaming in the car, not believing everything he picked up. Anyways, got to the bank, got the money, came back, bought the stuff. Headed back over and kept getting more stuff. So there were strategy guides. Some of them, if you look at these video game strategy guides, so this was for Breath of Fire 2, $137, right? When he looked it up. So knew that there was money. So anyways, let me just get to the crux of it. Would have stayed longer. So a few days later, went back and picked up a bunch of stuff. In 24 hours, already listed 46 of those items. Okay, so 46 of those items. So remember, he spent $1,400, right? And there's all kinds of stuff in here. There's game gear, there's old controllers, there's a bunch of sealed packages. I mean, it's a lot. And, it's a podcast, but I'm just letting you know, it's a lot of sealed video games, PS1, PS2, PS3. There's Nintendo, there's strategy guides. So anyways, Ryan listed 46 items for a total of $7,000 plus minus. Has a ton more to list, not including the sealed stuff. Hasn't even listed sealed stuff. Last week did over $2,500 in sales from all this stuff. Okay, and remember, spent $1,400, already made $2,500, listed $7,000, and has a lot more to list. So yeah, if we had this is, I had encouraged him to do YouTube. I know that takes a lot of time, but the breadth of everything that was picked up is way more for me to be able to share in this 2-minute hustle of the week section.
Yeah,
so
what a cool find.
So Ryan, great job. Appreciate you sharing with us, and be quick on those local deals.
Yeah. All right. Our next one comes from IG handle Dublin's Treasure Isle. So it's a couple who's been reselling on eBay since 1999. So sold first as a hobby. There was a local Tower Records that was closing, so they bought Magic the Gathering boxes for $25 and were selling them for $150 to $175. So they did this daily. So fast forward to now, went to a Salvation Army as a craft. Went to the office supplies section first.
Did I type on that one?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means.
Let me see.
Picked up a pack of specialty printer paper for $6.99. Couldn't find comps, but saw that they were discontinued. Listed a 100 sheet of chart pack specialty print paper for a quick sale and sold for $100 plus shipping. Nice. Yeah, you never know.
You ever seen those like old school like printer papers? Like usually they look like junk.
Yeah. Hey, you never know.
Right. And even this
look
one.
Look it up. Specialty.
Yeah. If you go on IG, go to Dublin's _treasure_isle, ISLE. Like you go look at the picture. I guarantee 99% of us would have passed that up. So that was a nice pickup, Dublin's Treasure Isle. And by the way, that Tower Records, were you around when Tower Records?
I don't think so.
Man, if you could, like the fact that they were buying Magic the Gathering cards for $25.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
On the daily, just showing up and it's on clearance.
Well, you probably don't want to think about what those cards, if that was $19.99 are selling for now.
I believe it. I believe, but it's kind of like this. Like I'm really bothered right now because when Toys R Us was closing out, liquidating, there were thousands of Skylanders new and sealed packages, and they were selling them for like 10 cents, 15 cents, like less than $1. And I passed up on every single one. Yep. Every single one.
Yeah, well, I almost bought a Bitcoin when it was like $50. So whatever. I mean, we all make mistakes.
I know. Now, I did score on a ton of stuff, but it's one of those things where who would have thought? So, all right. You got your hustle. Thank you, everyone, by the way, for your hustle. We greatly appreciate it. And if you join our Discord, there's even crazier hustle of the week in the Discord. Like, unbelievable. Like, we're talking about museum stuff.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
It's pretty crazy.
Anyways, go ahead, Mike.
All right. So mine is a continuation of the church rummage sale camera saga. So if you originally I bought 3 cameras, not knowing if they worked, tested them. 2 of them worked. One of them didn't. Already sold the one that didn't work, separated the lens and the camera body. And so I picked up these 3 cameras for $55 a piece.
Okay.
And already made probably net profit like close to $80 to $100 off the broken one and the lens. So not bad. I mean, I'm already getting close to breaking even on those. Well, I just sold one of the working ones. So I still have one working one left. So I sold it with the shipping and the price of the camera. It was just about $500 once you include tax and all that stuff. I think that was the number that showed up. It's like $512 on my phone.
Okay.
So $500,
nice.
An item that I picked up for $55, pretty much already broken even on the sell, getting close to breaking even from selling the broken one. And it actually wasn't too bad to ship. I was really worried, but because I took the first one and I took the lens off it, because they're pretty large cameras, I took the lens off of the broken one and sold the lens separately. I already was like, man, maybe I should, when I ship this, take the lens off. So that's what I did. I took the lens off, made the box a little bit shorter, and I actually floated 2 boxes inside of a bigger box.
Huh.
So the second box, and so here's a tip for you. If you're floating a box, you can use another box as the padding inside of there. And it kind of works pretty good to fill in some space. So instead of just using paper or bubble wrap or things like that, which can be a little bit more expensive.
I've done that before. Like you just create like a boundary, like a border.
Yeah, like a border around of, I mean, I've used various things, whether it's styrofoam. I had a box that came in and a lot of the packing material around it was basically pieces of cardboard like folded into like cylinders or triangles and then taped up. And so that kind of gave me the idea of like, hey, I could just use some of these too. So I used a box. One of the boxes kind of acted as a buffer in there. But yeah, it shipped and it wasn't too bad to ship. I charged $50 for shipping on it and actually shipped out for like $25. So nice. Wasn't too bad. Made some money on the shipping on that. And I still have one more and now I'm way in the green on it. So I'm super excited to sell the last one. It was one of those, I mean, I'm going to be over $1,000 net profit off of these cameras by the time everything's said and done. So it was definitely my hustle of the week that finally sold. Happy.
There you go.
What about you? What's your hustle?
So remember that story about the storage wars, right? Well, I was at that garage sale and the storage war person was there, Renee, and I basically like, hey, storage wars. And he ended up buying nothing. Well, he missed out. So I bought a bunch of stuff. I bought spray cans. I bought, it was just a bunch of stuff like electronics here and there, vintage cameras. But there was one piece in there that I thought he would have picked up because after I sold it, I'm like, that's weird because this was probably the most valuable thing at the garage sale. And I got to that garage sale an hour and a half after it had been open and no one had thought about buying this, which I thought was kind of odd. So if you caught us on Instagram when I was sourcing at that garage sale, there was an old bus fare box. So if you ever caught the bus in the city, usually you put your coins and it drops, right at the entrance. Or you've watched the movie Speed, right at the front by the bus driver. Okay. And so they had a fare box there and it was working and they wanted $50 for it. And, I bundled everything and I paid $100 for everything there. So I already made my money back. I sold a bunch of the spray cans, which, selling spray paint isn't too hard. I mean, the shipping isn't too bad. Shout out to Primetime Treasure Hunter, has a great video on shipping out spray cans. I learned from him and it's been really easy. And I already made like $30, $40 profit on the spray cans and a few of the other items that were there. So this fare box was sitting around and last podcast, I was telling Mike like, I don't know about this thing. Like I got to get it listed. And at the same time, somebody had messaged me and it was pretty awesome because it was somebody from San Francisco and they were telling me how they drove the bus. And so that gave me an opportunity to immediately connect and I said, hey, you know what? I grew up riding Muni, which Muni is the bus company out there. And he's like, oh yeah, I drove from Muni for 30 years. I'm like, sweet. So this is when you build that connection, like it's already going in a good direction. And, we were going back and forth and he was telling me about his family. And it was just this weird interaction that it felt normal. I felt like I was at this guy's house having dinner. And so, Mike was in the room still. And I said, I'm hoping this develops into a deal. Well, sure enough, we eventually landed on a deal. I paid $50 for this fare box and we agreed on $475 for the fare box plus $100 shipping. And that's good. I was good with that and instantly paid right away, kept telling me how much he appreciated me. And I was like, hey, I appreciate you, man. Thank you. And I was kind of scared shipping it because it weighed 70 pounds. And I remember Mike going like, you're going to actually ship that? I'm like, yeah, because there's more money when you ship stuff. 9 times out of 10, you will make more money. That thing locally, I don't think it would have sold that fast. And so, I packed it and you can send it via UPS or FedEx. Here's a problem. eBay has a major glitch they need to fix. And the fix that they need to do is when an item is like a certain way, it's too heavy or there's too much dimensions. It does a stupid thing where when the buyer tries to buy it, it says contact the seller for the price. And I don't know why it does that. It's done that to me for years and somehow it doesn't. So what I had to do is I actually just had to go to flat rate. When I entered I said, it's going to cost $200 to ship no matter what. And so, I told the guy, I said, hey, I can punch in numbers. So I went to Pirate Ship and I punched in numbers to see how much it would cost to ship. And I said, you know what? We could do it for $100. Right. And it ended up costing me like about $85 to ship it out. So just be aware that the way to get around that glitch is to just accept the reality that eBay may never fix that glitch and just put a flat rate to ship. And so anyways, the other thing I wanted to share is that you need to get a special kind of tape when you ship out items that are over 50 pounds. And so it's called strapping tape. U-Haul has this. So it's tape that you cannot tear apart with your hands. You have to actually cut it with scissors or a blade. And it's because it has fiberglass pieces embedded. And so when you put it on the box, it has this instant bond, and it's really hard for items to break through. And so it cost me about $5. I spent the whole roll on my box, just kind of wanted to make sure, but it got there in 2 days, safe and sound. The guy left me a glowing review, was so happy about it. So it beat the Storage Wars guy and turned $50 to $400 something net profit. So yeah. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. You should make a video rubbing it in his face. You didn't buy this.
Like tag him in it. No. Listen, I respect that guy. I've learned so much from that guy. So, all right. So that is our hustles of the week. Yeah. Now, did you shave on the way here?
Not on the way here. I shaved on the way to my 9-to-5 job. And we use Skull Shaver at Pure Hustle Podcast. Skull Shaver has been a great partner of ours. When we first got our hands on a Skull Shaver, I had never actually shaved my head all the way down. I'd kind of just use like trimmers to like keep it real close. And man, I was a little bit nervous the first time, but it was so easy to use. You can use it in the shower. You can use it when you're out of the shower. Either way, it's fast, it's quick, it's easy to clean. I've never once had a nick, not even one time shaving my head. And that was my biggest fear. I was like, man, I know I'm going bald. I'm going to have to shave my head. And I was just worried about cuts and nicks. And with my Skull Shaver, I get down to the skin and I've never had a nick one time. So if you are somebody who regularly shaves or you need to start shaving, we highly recommend Skull Shaver. It's a great product. It's one that we use every single day, and we can honestly say it's fantastic. So check it out, Skull Shaver. The code is it Pure now?
It's Hustle with
Hustle,
capital H.
It's Hustle, capital H. Go to Skull Shaver. Use our code that lets them know we sent you. You'll get a little discount. It lets them know. But even if you don't, like we highly recommend the product. So check it out.
All right, let's talk about the good part. So if you say to the end, now you're staying where it's really applicable to you. And this is good. So the first one is not going to be so good, but maybe it will be good in the long run. And thrift stores boom during this time.
Yeah,
meaning that they grow and they grow. So read a couple of reports here. This is from England, the Daily Mail. And so what they say is that the squeeze middle, this is from 2012, is fueling a boom in charity shops as families are forced off the high street to buy secondhand clothes and furniture. The Sue Ryder organization, which provides palliative care in communities, has opened a 3,000 square foot store in Kings Lynn. I don't know where that is, but massive thrift store. So they kept opening over and over and over stores throughout the country, right? And so you also had Oxfam, 700 shops and online stores announced taking annuals of 85 million pounds in 2011. So anyways, they grew. Okay. Here in America. Okay. We had more thrift stores. So I don't like how they describe it here. Is this how it is still? This is 2012. They said musty smells, bad lighting, aisles clogged with shoddy merchandise and ancient shoppers. It's kind of mean.
It's a good description. There's a smell.
Not now. It's like where all the cool kids go.
Well, it depends on which ones you go to. But here's the problem. If you don't go to the musty thrift stores, you're basically paying designer prices for your items.
That's true. Okay, now
cool kids are going there.
But then they clarify. Then they say, if this is your perception of a thrift store, chances are you haven't been in one recently. The Great Recession era has been generally awful for housing values and job prospects, but a struggling economy can result in a boom for certain segments that benefit from consumers adapting to financially hampered circumstances, namely auto repair shops. I mentioned this before, which people spend more money on because they want to make their cars last. Dollar stores do really well, and thrift stores. Okay. And so according to the National Association of Resale Professionals, the number of resale stores, thrift stores, as well as consignment shops and other retailers selling secondhand merchandise increased 7% in each of the past 2 years. Goodwill now operates over 2,500 nonprofit stores in the U.S., while up-and-coming nonprofit resale stores such as Savers are flourishing.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's pretty clear to say that thrift stores are going to do well.
Which is going to lead to more competition, but maybe it's going to lead to more sourcing opportunities.
Yeah, I'm not super I'm not super optimistic that it's going to lead to more sourcing opportunities because I think their prices will go up. I think more and more people, not just competition from other resellers. You think
so in a declining economy?
Well, yeah, because if you're used to going to a thrift store and the only people at thrift stores are other resellers and a handful of people who are buying things, just for themselves. But if a large portion of the population is moving to, and when I say large, if a good percentage of people are starting to go to thrift stores for their own things, then thrift stores, they have way more demand. They can raise their prices. It's going to be harder to find the things you're looking for. So I definitely think it's harder, but it's one of those things where if thrift stores are doing well, then eBay is going to be doing well too. So I don't think it's going to be a boon for us sourcing wise, but I do think that it's a symptom of the secondary market doing well, which will impact the eBay sellers too. So it's one of those, it's a catch-22. I think we're going to have more competition, but I also think it could help us out as more people are moving towards potentially eBay as a source for buying things for themselves. So I think it's maybe a net break even.
Okay. I'm just thinking about, did you catch what Target just announced?
Yeah.
They just announced they're slashing prices to clear out inventory. So basically they have too much.
But I don't know if that's good. Again, it's not necessarily a good thing for a reseller because if they're cutting their prices because they have too much inventory and there's not enough demand, we pick it up. It's not like demand is going to go up. The demand is still low.
Oh, 100%. To me, it's a warning. So people were sending me this and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to source from there.
Yeah, because if they can't sell it at retail prices, then how am I going to sell it?
I thought this was funny. It said other retailers, including Macy's, Kohl's, and Walmart, cited rising inventories when they reported their quarterly earnings results last month. Walmart said its annual shareholders meeting on Friday that 20% of its elevated inventory were items the company wishes it never had. Right. So, but again, if you have quality stuff, right? Most of the stuff I resell is not from Walmart, is not from Target. I know some resellers do, and I think there are certain like niches with, Lilly Pulitzer and, other brands that you can buy. But here's the thing. There is going to be more competition at the thrift because now everyone is going to be going to the thrift, right? They're not going to go buy those brand new shoes. But I do think this is going to shift to online because during that recession, I don't think I remember looking that our inflation was not anywhere where it is right now. It wasn't even close, right? Our inflation now is the highest it's been since the 80s, right? And so gas is obnoxious. So are people really going to be going to all these stores, or are they just going to go, hey, I go online, it's free shipping, I'm just gonna buy online. So I anticipate that it's going to be good for us in the long run, as long as you have the right products and you're competitive. Now, I think there's going to be amazing sourcing opportunities. Like amazing, like
garage sales.
I'm already seeing it. Yep. So I kind of read a little bit of this article last time, but basically during the recession of 08, 09 and into 2010, there was a boom in garage sales. People trying to offset their costs by doing garage sales. And so therefore, people are like, hey, you know what? If I do a quick garage sale, I make a quick $200-$300, that's going to offset the cost of gas, offset the cost of groceries. And so it's going to bring in, that extra necessary money that people need. And so during that time, Craigslist had reported, a huge uptick on their listings. And what I mean is, here, I'll read it. It says, one barometer of the rising popularity and a threefold leap in garage. Threefold leap. Now, imagine that's triple, right?
Yeah. So
in San Diego, we get about an average of like 300 garage sales every weekend. That would mean 900 garage sales. That would be a wonderland. Okay. On the free classified listings on Craigslist over the past 2 years. And I'm already seeing it. In the last month, except for one day, one Saturday, every time I've gone to garage sales, it's been ridiculous amount of stuff that's out there right now.
Yeah. And you have to look at it too, because a lot of times people are going to say, like, these are people who are hurting. They're trying to sell stuff to make money. Don't you feel bad being a reseller? And the reality is it's a benefit to both parties. That's why this transaction happens. All transactions, unless it's a forced transaction, is mutually beneficial, or at least perceived to be mutually beneficial. So somebody who's hoping to make their, pay their electricity bill or get some extra money to cover gas or whatever it is they're trying to make money for, they're happy to offload things that are just taking up space in order to make that extra $200-$300 that they need that month. So if every reseller were to say, well, I feel bad, I'm not going to buy things because people are trying to make money, well, then those people won't get the money they need. So it is a mutually beneficial thing to go. But that kind of leads to the next point, which is there really is an opportunity in a time like this. Like the largest percentage of wealth transfer that happens in the West, happens in a country like America, happens during a downturn economy. It is when a lot of times people who maybe are doing really well financially, if they don't make good decisions, can end up transferring a lot of that money to other people who are positioned to take advantage of that. One example of that is something like the stock market, right? So when the stock market's doing really well, people who have the money to be in there can do really well. But if all of a sudden stock prices are cut in half, people have lost half of what they have, they start to get nervous, they start selling, things are selling for way cheap. If you've got a little bit of money, you can buy at a huge discount, right? You're buying stocks at significantly lower prices, knowing that, hey, in 3, 4, 5 years, this is going to go back up to where it was. I'm basically getting this at half price. So the same is true when it comes to something like garage sales and other sourcing opportunities. Is if people are trying to offload money now, times are hard. They want to, hey, I just need some extra money. And so people are offloading inventory. Maybe it's another reseller, or people are offloading things that they have in their house. If you're positioned yourself to be able to buy things now, it might not sell right away. Like you have to have positioned yourself to have the capital to say, I can buy maybe nothing hobby wise is selling right now. Maybe the card market drops as the economy gets worse. So the prices just start tanking. Well, if I can buy today what sold 2 days ago for $100, but I can buy it at $25 today, then in 5-10 years, when the economy is back to where it was, I'm going to have all this stuff at a huge discount. When people are buying Pokemon cards again, and people are buying it, things go in cycles. And so when I say the transfer happens, it isn't always realized immediately, but it's people saying, hey, if I buy this stuff now while it's at a discount, then a year, 2, 5, however long it takes, I now can then flip it at the much higher price. But you have to have positioned yourself to be able to take advantage of that. And sometimes it's playing the long game, and sometimes it's, hey, I've been preparing for this for years and years and years of, trying to make sure I had the capital. And we've been talking about that since the beginning of PRSL podcast, since our doing Richest Man in Babylon. One of the first book reviews we did is, how can we make sure that you're able to capitalize? Because there's really no such thing as being lucky, but opportunity comes, and luck is, were you able to capitalize on it? Did you strategically set yourself up in a position that you were able to take advantage of the opportunity that was going to come to you at some point along the road? And this, for some people, is going to be that opportunity. You might come out of this, whether it takes a year to get out of this downturn in economy, maybe it takes a month, maybe it takes 10 years. Like, we don't know. But this potentially is an opportunity for you to say, hey, as things, if I'm in the hobby market and prices keep tanking, instead of thinking I just need to offload all of my stuff at rock bottom prices, maybe now's the time to buy more of it, to keep sourcing more of it, knowing that this could go up again in 5-10 years, and I'm going to be 10 times better off than I was when this all started.
Yeah, I had mentioned in January, and somebody brought this up in the Discord, that I had said that this is going to be the year that makes or breaks resellers. And I kind of forgot that I said that, because I wasn't this woe is me. I did some kind of rant like, hey, things are kind of slow. It's kind of rough. And I mentioned on the last podcast that I can only do this maybe for another, 12 months or whatever. And somebody had to mention the fact that, hey, you were the one that said this is going to make or break resellers. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's true. And I do believe that to be true. I think there's going to be a lot of resellers that are going to fall away, that, things will get interesting, and maybe people have, including myself. I'm not saying I'm not, I plan on still reselling for a long time, but, I have this belief that sometimes you got to pivot when you got to pivot. Right. And if you see that the writing's on the wall, it's time to move. I don't see that happening, but I do believe that there's going to be a lot of resellers that are going to say this is too much, and they didn't prepare themselves. They, bought the wrong kind of inventory, or they leveraged themselves too much, or they put themselves in a place where now it's going paycheck to paycheck. And so there is no capital to buy. And so they're up against the wall. And some will say that's it. And others will say, you know, I'm against the wall. I'm going to list more. I'm going to source more. I'm going to adapt. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And when they get through this, they'll have either a larger inventory. They're going to have more capital. They're going to learn a lot more. And they're going to be a way, way better financial place, because during that time, they also were able to make sales. They're able to put money in the stock market, into other assets that, you know, when they rebound, they will rebound really well. And because I'm a big believer right now that, you know, a lot of people are like doomsday and all this, and maybe Mike and I disagree on this, but listen, if we are in doomsday mode, then what's it matter? It matters we'll work hard in the optimistic route and believing that things will rebound. Because if you don't, and things do rebound, you're going to get left behind, and you do not want to be left behind. So definitely find ways to make it happen. Recession, stagflation, whatever it is, based on everything we've seen, reselling is definitely doable. It just, as always, same formula applies. Adaptation will be what will take you through. With that being said, make sure to be real,
be relevant,
and be reselling. Peace.